It is that time of year. People who haven't watched a single second of soccer since the last World Cup are now all of a sudden going to become experts. They'll have flags on their cars, flags on their hoods of their cars, jerseys, the works. God, I love it. And to talk about it all and to get you prepped so that you can fake it till you make it with all of the real soccer fans, we bring back our football correspondent, Al Bott, back to talk about it. Al, the last time we spoke, it was for the other football. It was the NFL draft. Now you're here to talk about real football. And so we're just going to call you the football expert because it doesn't matter what kind of football, it just works.
I'll take it.
Love it.
Take it.
Love it. Welcome back on the pod. So basically, we're not going to try to keep this too long. We're not going to go into depth on every country. That's not our thing. We know that the listeners, they want to hear about a couple teams, the big clubs, and they want to just know enough so that when they're in a room full of people, they can kind of make it look like they know exactly what they're talking about. That's our goal here. So let's start off with what you need to know about the tournament that you may not already know. First off, the tournament is still called Euro 2020. They didn't change it to Euro 2021. I mean, can you imagine the nightmare of having to reprint all that merchandise, change the logo? They did not want to do that. Secondly, the tournament will feature 24 teams for the first time. It's going to have 6 groups of 4. The top 2 of each group make it, along with the top 4 third-place finishers. So really, only 8 teams are getting eliminated off the hop. The World Cup used to actually have this format. If you remember, if you're an Italy fan, in 1994 when they made the final against Brazil, they were actually one of those third-place finishers. So you never know. You squeak in, and you could go all the way. I mean, look at the Habs in hockey. All you need is a shot, baby.
We don't talk about that, Joe.
Not on this pod. No way. And lastly, this tournament is not being held in one specific host country. There's going to be 11 different host cities from all over Europe. And the tournament opens up on Friday in Italy. Italy hosts Turkey at the Stadio Olimpico in Rome. The final, semifinal are all going to be held at Wembley Stadium. A couple other big stadiums as well are going to be hosts for this tournament as well. So I guess with COVID happening, kind of makes a lot of sense that they actually came up with this format to have all these host cities, because when you think about it, you're not going to have the traveling circus of fans going to one particular country. Fans really can stay put where they are and most likely follow their team from there.
Yeah, I mean, I think they fluked into this format that way because originally it was planned this way years ago before COVID. Anybody even knew what COVID was. That's the disappointing part about it. Is it would have been nice to see how this grand idea of theirs would have played out under normal circumstances, because I think it would have been pretty cool to have a bunch of different cities having that sort of Euro atmosphere. I don't know if anyone's been to a Euro game or a World Cup game, but the second you get into that city hosting a game, it's like the electricity is palpable. It's there's fans everywhere. People are in jerseys, flags, drinking, partying. So, I mean, that's the unfortunate part about it. But I guess they sort of fluked off not having to transport and transplant hundreds and millions even of fans all over Europe. So we'll see.
We'll see. What you just described kind of sounds like Market Lane in Woodbridge. Could have the same vibes, right? I've never been to a World Cup game or a Euro game, but I've been to Market Lane, so that could be the closest equivalency that I have.
It's about the same, yeah. You're right.
Yeah, sure. All right, so let's talk about the big clubs, the big nations, the big countries, the favorites, shall we?
We shall.
Now, which country should we start off with talking about?
I think until they prove everybody elsewise, France is top of the list. Past World Cup winner, still a super strong team. Probably one of the best midfield in the world with Pogba and N'Golo Kante, who's just coming off a Champions League win with Chelsea. They're just up and down, an incredible team, unstoppable even sometimes. So I mean, they're probably in a league of their own.
Yeah.
And then I'd say the next tier down, probably, the Portugal, Belgium, throw Italy in there, depending on which Italy decides to show up.
For sure.
As always.
We'll get to Italy in a second, but let's talk about Belgium. This is considered their golden generation, I guess you could say. De Bruyne, Hazard, Lukaku, they're all getting up there in their late 20s. So this tournament, possibly even the next World Cup, could be their last crack at it to making some noise. They made the semifinals of the last World Cup. That was seen as a big accomplishment for that nation. But do you think these players feel a lot of pressure going into a tournament like this because they're seen as this golden generation for this country?
I'd say so. I think it's analogous to when we were growing up. You remember in the early 2000s, mid 2000s, late 90s, those Dutch teams that were, stacked with world class.
Yeah.
They got to the final year, and I think, what did they lose to? Germany? I don't remember, but it's the same idea. Belgium's ranked number one in the world. Like you said, they have, a laundry list of world-class superstar players who play all over Europe for basically league champions in every country. Lukaku, De Bruyne, Hazard. And, it's now or never for these guys. They're getting old. They're not the young pups they used to be. And this is the problem with international football, right? You only get so many cracks at it with your core group of guys like that. And for a team like Belgium, this doesn't exactly happen on the regular for them. So, this is, I think, it for them. It's now or never.
For sure. Let's talk about Portugal quickly now. As Italian soccer fans, there was always a little bit of like a rivalry with Portuguese fans, right? But I got to be honest, I don't feel the hate anymore for them. I kind of respect them. They've really turned into a real football powerhouse, so to speak. Obviously, we know about Ronaldo, but they've got quality all over the squad. João Felix is an exciting player. Maybe you want to talk about them and say I really like their chances to repeat. Actually, they are the reigning Euro champions.
Yeah. So first things first, the whole Italy-Portugal thing, I've learned in my travels, is exclusively a Toronto thing.
Yes.
And that does not exist anywhere else.
Everybody wants that turf 100%. At like St. Clair in college, right?
Yeah. Like you gotta fight for St. Clair. You gotta fight for little Portugal, little Italy, and have those gang wars out there. But I remember having a conversation with somebody, Euro 2012. Is it the last Euro? Yeah, there was a Euro in 2012, right?
There was. Italy made the final, but maybe you're talking about Euro 2016.
No, I'm talking about Euro 2012. I was in Europe for the final when Italy got shit pumped by Spain.
Yep. Remember it well. Yep.
And I remember funny enough, I was in Portugal, and I remember having a conversation with some Portuguese guys there, and they were like all about Italy. They loved Italy. They were dying for them to beat Spain. And we commiserated with these guys, and we explained to them what was happening, what happens in Toronto between Italy and Portugal. And, they were like, what's that about? And, it was tough to explain because it's not, when people aren't part of it, they don't really get it. But like guys like us, I mean, growing up, I remember that you and I being Italian, there was no greater hatred than seeing Portugal doing well.
Exactly.
So, I don't know, maybe it's a construction thing. I don't know.
Possibly. Okay, so let's get to Italy. I know we have a lot of Italian listeners. They probably want to hear about them. After the embarrassment of not qualifying for the World Cup in 2018, they hire a renowned manager, Roberto Mancini, and they go unbeaten in 24 matches. They probably didn't face the stiffest of competition, but if you know Italy squads of the past, they usually play down to their competition. So the fact that they have gone unbeaten against lesser quality opponents is probably a really good thing. In their latest tune-up game against Czech Republic, a team that has qualified for the Euros, they spanked them 4-0. So they're looking good going into the tournament. There are a couple players that people are definitely familiar with, Chiellini, Bonucci. But why don't you speak about a couple players that maybe people don't know about and are going to be their biggest fans once this tournament starts?
So, unlike most years, the defense is probably Italy's weakest point this year. Their midfield is outstanding. Their attack is incredible. They have in that midfield likely starting Locatelli, Barella. Verratti's hurt, so he might not start. But Barella was the best midfielder in Italy for the whole season this year on a Serie A winning Inter team. had an incredible year. Locatelli too for Sassuolo had a great year. Probably looking at a big money transfer, likely to Juve. Heard Real Madrid. So the midfield is nothing to squawk at. And now in attack, you have Insigne, who people should be familiar with. Immobile. Chiesa had a great year with Juve.
Your
Probably
boy.
Juve, probably Juve's best player this year. Despite having Ronaldo there, Chiesa was unbelievable. So it's finally these last 24 matches, and if that game against Czech was any precursor, it finally looks like Italy is playing that fun run and gun attacking style because they
Yes.
have the horses to do it now. I'm concerned about the defense. We'll see what happens there, which is weird to say about an Italy team, but these guys can outscore anybody. So let's see what happens. And I think that we're in for some high scoring games and we're in for some fun games.
I'm up for that for sure. What about teams that usually are considered favorites, but maybe are in a bit of a retool, like a Germany, Spain, the Netherlands? What are you thinking about those teams?
I think of the three, probably the Dutch have the best opportunity. They got a young team, quality team. The Germany is in a bit of a lull right now, as is Spain. Spain for the first time I think that I can even remember failed to cap Sergio Ramos for this tournament.
That's right. Yep.
So I mean, casual observers who like you said only watch every few years will probably be shocked to find out that's the case. But he had a down year. He was hurt a lot this year. Didn't play great. So it's going to be a tough sled for those guys. Those teams that we are accustomed to doing extremely well in these situations. Having said that, these tournaments, crazy stuff happens. So you get a chance to have a Germany or Spain get hot and get some breaks, and who knows what happens, man.
That's true. You know which team I'm actually looking forward to watching a lot of? Hungary. Those poor little guys finally make a major tournament and they get stuck in a group with the aforementioned Germans, the Portuguese, and France, the tournament favorites. Man, that's got to be tough for Hungary and Hungary
Joe,
fans.
hold on. Wait a minute. Let's call a spade a spade. Hungary was coming for a sightseeing tour no matter which group they were in. Okay? They were going to show up. They were going to have some fun. They were going to run around the park a bit, meet some guys, swap some jerseys, have a great time, go home to Hungary, proud that they qualified for the Euro. If that's going to be the case, why not play in a group with three other teams full of world-class superstars? Could you imagine going on a trip with three strangers you've never met? The first trip you've ever been on. Would you rather go with three guys who are lame and don't do anything, or three amazing guys who have so much fun and are incredible at what they do and are just a big time story? I don't know about you, but if their tickets punched for the ride home already, why not play the three of the best teams in the world?
You raised some good points. And the fact they really have nothing to lose. I mean, they've already qualified. They're already heroes back home. And think about it. If you are a striker for Hungary, you could potentially swap jerseys with Ronaldo, Thomas Muller. I mean, he's still on the German squad. I feel like that guy's been on their squad for 20 years already. He's still there.
Probably.
And Mbappe. That's a sweet jersey collection that you can come up with.
Oh, for sure. Imagine that. Imagine you were told by your FA that you made the national team for your team, the first time in forever you've qualified for a major tournament, and you get to go and meet all these great guys.
Oh yeah,
That's
they're
a
jacked.
dream.
They're jacked. Tour a couple
Now
different
that
cities.
now
It's
that
like
we
a
said that
vacation for them.
now that we said that they're probably going to qualify in first and go out of the group. So
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. Let's talk about one more team. We'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the England team. They are perennial chokers. They have a really good squad coming in this year. Obviously, they're the top league in the world. Their domestic league. Do you think that this could possibly be the year for the England squad to finally get over that hump and capture their first major tournament since what, 1966?
do you remember the excitement in 2019? Do you
I
remember
do.
it's coming home?
Yep, I do.
Remember all that?
Yes, I
That
do.
was that was something. So,
Mhm.
a big part of me likes when England does well because I like to see the English fans be happy and enthusiastic
They
and
are a
go crazy
spectacle.
about stuff. And
Yes.
you see videos on social media that are just unbelievable to what these guys do. But another part of me knows that they're just gonna choke in some horrible dramatic fashion, and everyone's gonna be super disappointed. So, I mean, yeah, they got the horses to get there. They got a great team. That team in 2018 was fantastic. This team might be better, but
That's right.
we all know that something's gonna happen in the worst gut wrenching way possible. The fact that the semifinals and the finals are at Wembley have set themselves up perfectly for absolute heartbreak. So
Is if there is a prop bet out there for England to lose in the semis or finals in penalties at home at Wembley Stadium, go and smash that bet right now.
yeah, for sure,
Because
for
that
sure.
would be the most gut wrenching, and they're terrible at penalties. Terrible.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we'll see what
It'll
happens.
be there is some cosmic force out there, and again, this is partly the Leaf fan in me. There's some cosmic force out there that will not make it so that England doesn't qualify out of their group or they lose in the round of 16 or something like that. They will be on that field at Wembley one way or another, and either the semis or the final. They won't even lose that game horribly. They won't lose that game 5-0. They'll be winning maybe in injury time. Maybe
Yeah.
someone scores a late equalizer. Maybe they go on and they lose in extra time. Maybe they lose in a shootout. Who knows? But mark it down. They'll make it to one of those games, and they will lose one of those games horribly.
Ugh. And it's like a bad car accident. You can't take your eyes off of it. You don't want to watch it, but you can't stop looking at it and seeing the fans' reaction and how gutted they are. But such is the life if you're an English football fan. What can you say? All
Yeah,
right.
you got that.
Let's swing this around the last corner. What are you really looking forward to in this tournament?
Um, I really want to see again. I think the whole venue idea is really cool. I want to see how that plays out. I want to see how the teams travel, how it works that way. I'm super excited to maybe catch a game with my friends, the guys who watch every 2 years.
Of course.
Super excited to see who they're you know people who only watch international soccer always inevitably have the same two people that they root for. There's the guy who they love to death, who's the hero of every game, who they wish would get on in crunch time to score the equalizer or to score the winner. Then there's the guy that they blame for everything. It's always his fault. It's always his screw up. He's a piece of shit. What's he doing? I can't believe this guy. What are we doing here? And those two guys are guys that person just found out existed 10 minutes before kickoff.
Yeah. It's
So
beautiful.
it's always fun to see who those two guys end up being. Because, I mean, listen, every team has them, every fan group has them. There's two guys that you just yell about. Or, better yet, the even better guys, the guys who, Chiellini, like, perfect example, Chiellini. Chiellini is a little long in the tooth, didn't have a great year, was hurt a lot, wasn't the best defender. But I know for a fact that I have a friend who will claim he's the best defender in the world. I know it.
Of course.
But just wait to see who gets checked off in the old bingo box for that one.
Hasn't watched them play in 3 years, but definitely the best still, for sure.
Time. So I like to think that everyone who does that thinks that these guys play the World Cup or the Euro, and then they get put in the Austin Powers cryo chamber and they get frozen, and they thaw them out right before the tournament. They're the exact same guy.
Yeah. Yeah. There are people that definitely think that. I could think of a couple people in my head right now that think like that for a couple players. All right. So I'm really looking forward to having fans back at most of the games. They're talking about 25% to 45% capacity, depending on the venue. Obviously, the last year we've seen sports without fans, and let's face it, it sucks. It's like a
Terrible.
glorified exhibition match most of the time,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Fans of the orchestra, I always say, without it, the musical can't happen or it can't be as good. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. And secondly, English football commentators. I love English football commentators. They are the best. I would love to hire them. If I had enough money, I would hire them to narrate my life. I think we should get English football commentators to do every sport. Can you imagine one of these guys doing the Super Bowl? It's Tom Brady, drops back. What a wonderful pass that is down the sideline to Mike Evans. A magnificent catch that you cannot see anywhere else. Just the pitch, the tone of their voice, it's like a crescendo. It just goes up and down. They don't need a color guy. It's just one guy doing it. It's amazing.
That was a pretty good impression, Joe. You been practicing that?
No, they're my idols. So, I go on YouTube black holes and I'm just looking for like the best calls of soccer goals. There's plenty.
It's the vocabulary that gets me.
And the alliteration, they'll use alliteration like the demonstrative deft touch of the defensive player. Like they'll throw all those D sounds in there, and then they're magicians with words. They're magicians.
World-class vocabulary.
Absolutely. All right, buddy. Well, that about wraps it up for us. I want to thank you again for coming in and talking football with us. It doesn't matter which football it is, but I'm sure we'll be talking on Friday as Italy kicks off the tournament. With going in with all this hype, probably end up with a tie. That seems very Italy of them.
Yeah, I hear you. That sounds like about right. So do me a favor, keep score, whoever you're around. Make sure you figure out who those guys are that we talked about. I think I have an idea of who they're going to be already. So I'm going to write them down on a piece of paper, and then we can reveal them at the end of the tournament.
Sounds good to me, buddy. All right.
Okay, man. Thanks for having me, buddy.
Take care.
Later.